What do you make of this whole idea of these shareholders? And we've had a bunch of them even come on the program now.
Yeah.
Who signed this letter saying, look, you're doing too much, Elon. It's just too much. What do you think of that?
I don't think he's all that distracted away from the business. Like on the earnings call, he was answering questions at a really deep level, like on how the C++ neural nets work.
Right.
Like he's involved, and he has always had a lot going on, but he is incredible at managing his schedule and staying involved on the absolutely key topics. And you see, like they are still delivering more cars than they've ever delivered. I think anybody in the car business would love a 36 comp on a quarter. And he's got a lot of margin to play with.
By the way, I don't disagree with you. What I can't figure out is, let's say he was paying more attention. What would the result be?
Yeah, what would you do about the general economic environment? Exactly. And because they've got a lot of margin, they're using that as a weapon. And even though they cut prices 6 times this year, they still in the first quarter delivered more margin than anybody else in the industry.
Are you a believer, though, there is this other issue, which is, he's made a lot of promises to not just the shareholders, but frankly the customers who bought the vehicles thinking that they're getting autonomous driving, full self-drive, all sorts of different component parts of the product that have not come to fruition. I say that somewhat politely because I do know some owners of these cars that are like genuinely upset because they think they were sold a bill of goods.
Yeah, I think he is good at delivering eventually on promises, but not on time on his promises. And that's got to be frustrating for customers. And I think now you see competition coming both on the EV side and on the autonomous vehicle side.
Right.
And I think they're feeling that competition for sure.
But one of the things you heard this year was he said, look, by the end of this year, I think we're going to have full autonomous driving, and that's where we're going to make it up on the margin. Right?
Yes.
He thinks that he's saying, look, we'll take a lower margin today because I'm going to be able to really get margin later.
Right.
And I think there's some investors, at minimum, who are saying, are you really going to be able to get margin later? Because A, there's all of these other car companies that are doing EVs that are going to try to take your margin. And B, is this full self-driving thing, robo-taxis, and all the ways you think you're capturing this margin in the future, is that a realistic future?
Yeah, I think that's what he's asking you to believe as an investor is, can you make this up in the future with software revenues and other revenues that are going to come in off the car? That's what you're being asked to believe as an investor.
And I'm asking you where you would land on that.
I think the market is kind of speaking on that. I think in the long term, this is a huge market. They're a market leader. They've got market-leading margins. And so as an investor, you're investing into a space that could be 10 times larger, literally in 5 years than it is today. So even with...
But as an automobile company or as this other thing? Because right now it's still... To capture this type of valuation, even this valuation, you have to believe it's something else.
That's right, because they're valued at 10x their competition. And so you've got to believe that there's something else, and that competition is coming now with autonomous vehicles.
Okay, but so you used to work with this guy,
Yeah.
So is there something else?
There is a lot of capability to deliver margins off of that platform, those cars. But GM's got a very similar strategy and a very similar capability, and others do too. So this space becomes more crowded for sure.
I have one question about, not the distraction piece, but the ecosystem that is Elon, which is to say, one of the things you keep hearing about is, so he has Twitter, he's now talking about doing generative AI, he's got SpaceX. There is this sense that, and he owns Twitter outright, as a private company, Tesla, public company, SpaceX, private company, but lots of investors in there.
Yeah.
He does move these engineers around from place to place to place to place to help in specific moments. There was a period of time where we heard that a lot of Tesla engineers were showing up on the doorstep of Twitter to try to assess what's really happening. Folks at SpaceX, now in the whole generative AI situation, how that's... And he's got a lot of AI folks inside Tesla that he's going to want to use in other places. How should a shareholder feel about that? In the sort of normal context, there would be people who would say, no. That guy works for you over here. He does not work for you over here.
It drives, believe it or not, some massive breakthroughs. There are SpaceX metallurgy engineers, materials engineers who've really transformed the way the Model Y gets produced.
Right.
And so you get these big breakthroughs by moving that talent and context switching them. So yeah, I can understand one side of the story where investors are upset. The other side of the story that doesn't really get told is how much value they add back to Tesla as they come in and help.